okay, I was diagnosed on Friday with a melanoma, and melanoma that didn't need the dermatologist to explain it, but a melanoma is something you don't fool around with, and needed to be taken out immediately. So it was taken out yesterday, and so because of our change of association, we could talk about anything, and we could talk about politics. However, again, a buzz in the Washington contacts are the question of and there's a field of psycho and social linguistics. Mm-hmm. And that language forms, has a lot to say about what we think. And so I don't necessarily want to talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, but you'll notice that that's beginning to mean incompetent. So if you're a DEI, you are incompetent. And they talked about the poor woman who was the pilot in a helicopter, that she was a DEI hire, or the people in the tower were DEI hires. The other is, that I mentioned in the flyer, that public schools have become government schools. And that's a linguistic switch that says the government is here and we are here, directly flying in the face, as I mentioned, of Abraham Lincoln, who said we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And so this attempt to say public schools are bad, let's send all our kids to private schools, greater funding of private, mostly religious schools by the state, it's costing our public school billions of dollars, and it's something about which we need to take a stand. But everybody's a buzz about politics, national and otherwise. What do you think is going on in Washington?
Okay, what you just mentioned about the linguistics, this is nothing new for the far right. They've controlled the language for decades. They've controlled the meaning of patriotism, the meaning of flag respect. They've seized control of the language is what they've done. Okay, they demonize what they don't agree with, and they prioritize what they do agree with. So they want to shape these definitions themselves, and I think that's one of the battles that have to be fought, is the language battle.
Well, I like to report I went to the city meeting last night, and they have started, per resolutions and efforts, to remove Palmco's charter and processes, him, her, any term trans, or any reference to DEI, and a proactive effort to follow the president and Washington's guidelines without any conversation of the citizens. And sadly, during open forum, not one citizen walked up to question it or to push back.
Well, it's because everybody knows where it's coming from and that it's a done deal.
But how many citizens outside of this room really keep up with that sort of thing? I bet most citizens, you ask them on the street, do you understand what they're doing to the English language that they're controlling? And they say, how do you come up with that? They didn't pay attention. So I think it's up to those of us who do see it to speak up.
I would agree. And Joanne, I admire you, but that's preemptive surrender. Is what, before we even engage in the battle, we can't do anything. But
well, I believe the president today or yesterday signed an executive order. I heard that it was in the works to eliminate the Department of Education.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is preemptive, I realize that, but it's also not done.
And he has said all along he's going to eliminate the Department of Education.
Right.
And who was it? Texas Governor Perry?
Abbott.
No, that's the current. The guy who was running for president, who said, "I'm going to eliminate 3 departments and could only name 2 of them." But one of the departments was the Department of Education. It's again, it's a war on public education. It's a desire to label them as government schools, as godless, since they say they're not allowed to pray, but we know as long as there are tests, there will be prayers in school, because I pray that I get a decent grade on this test. And they've been constantly warring public education, and we need to stand up for public education. I think it's what helped us win World War II. It got us a man on the moon and made us. That's what makes America great, is education, I believe.
But let me connect some more dots here. If you look at everything that they're basically going to war against, wanting to eliminate, education, Social Security, Medicare, VA benefits, the common thread for all these is socialism. That's the common thread,
The
okay?
common thread is money.
By the way, so that's a
That's
linguistic,
capitalism, which is in opposition to socialism.
yeah,
So-
a linguistic trick to make socialism
Right,
terrible.
exactly.
You know, they're Marxist.
That's what I said, we have to start looking at these bigger battles.
Yeah.
The-
But
the-
is
the-
socialism equivalent to social programs?
Yes,
Yeah,
social
yeah.
programs are, I mean, that's what socialists encourage is more social programs, more government control rather than corporate control over social programs.
So when we send $1 billion to California through FEMA and federal programs to
That's socialism.
fight crime, that's
That's
socialism.
socialism, right?
So there are tolerant levels and understanding and even expected efforts that our federal government over a long period of time have developed that were to fulfill the needs of the smaller states, smaller communities that can't survive a hurricane, can't survive a tornado, a national disaster or whatever, and that's really what that purpose was for. Just like our public education was to take money and give it to very small counties and states, and I love to use Louisiana and Arkansas because they are 49th and 50th in education, but 1 and 2 in the amount of money that they get from the federal government for social programs that now those states' representatives want to get rid of it. The reason? They want the money, but they want to control where the money goes. And if you want to see how successful that is, you have to look only to your own state. The state of Florida is intentionally moving towards getting more federal money, including your state money, and then giving it to the schools that are like-minded or in a direction they want it to go. And then signing loyalty requirements for all the teachers that teach in those schools that they're going to teach a certain way.
So the topic is politics, correct?
The topic is what?
Politics?
Yeah,
So
we
these
have
are,
been successful over the, how many years or weeks or months we've been meeting in talking about all sorts of things. We were drawing a line, we no longer need to draw that line.
okay.
But I just want to respond and note that it is called social security.
Yeah.
And
They like the
social-
money, just not the name.
Yeah.
So-
So go ahead, Joanne
Exactly.
and then Kurt. And
So I just wanted to mention though, that these are, part of it, but I think the big problem is Elon, in my computers, not my personal, but the ones that affect me the most, where I could be homeless, and whatever he's doing to the treasury, and he has compromised our intelligence. So as far as the whole world stage, we are in the dungeon, and then, what was the other thing that's happened? Oh, Gaza.
yeah, that's it, yeah.
Gaza. So we might just be at war, I don't know.
Yes.
So those are, but that's only after we deal with this other stuff, in my opinion, humble opinion.
But if you look at a bigger picture of the conversation, what's going on, 2 examples. He went to Canada and said, I'm going to hit you with a tariff.
Oh, yeah.
Canada came back and said, well, I'll do these things for you. They said that in December
I know.
that they would do it. But not all the information of the total picture gets out to the public.
I understand.
And he stands there and pats himself on the back, as I was sharing with Al. Anybody here remember 2017-18 when a guy named Jared was in the Middle East working with Israel and Gaza and the Palestine and all that? And at that time,
They
shared that he saw
The Riviera.
as the Riviera. What was stated last night on the news? Gaza, the Riviera. So Trump's motivation,
It's business.
but it takes information that is being blocked, that is being controlled. The Pentagon just kicked out the 5 legacy TV, ABC, NBC, CBS, to put in right-wing people that are the slowly, what Kurt and I talk about all the time, as far as, you don't like the news? Control it. Right?
Right.
So the critical importance is this misinformation, disinformation, and allowing people to understand. And I'm as guilty as anyone of getting tunnel vision into the concepts of certain conspiracy theories, because there are as many left as there are right wing. And it's all about verify, 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 which is the biggest danger. I think the school changes and the efforts would be a sad product of.
Kurt was next, and then Dave.
Well, he penetrated the Treasury, and he's got all our information.
That's what I was talking
Yeah.
about. That's my
All our tax,
retirement.
because with all our tax information. So he's got everything.
Define he, please.
Must,
Okay.
must,
Because
must.
The non-elected official.
anybody who knows Russian history, and Dave is next, anybody who knows Russian history and will recognize the name Rasputin. And when you look at Musk, you can see elements of that. Anyway, Dave.
I like that. I never made that connection.
Yeah,
Yes, I am
yeah,
familiar with that part of
yeah,
Russian
yeah.
history. I never made that connection.
History may
Yes.
not repeat, but it rhymes.
Yeah. Back to what Mark was just talking about, the communication and the misinformation. To put it in military terms, when any enemy you have, I don't care how big or small your battle is or your war, your top target is communications. You want to cut off communication to your enemy. The military calls it cutting off the eyes and ears of the enemy. Okay? This is what they're doing to America. They're cutting off the eyes and ears of the American people. Okay? You have to think of this in military terms, because I'm sure that's what they're thinking.
They have removed the NBC. They're taking the main news people and taking their
Out of the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
out of the department. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in combat, what do? You shoot two.
I know.
there's two
I was a
people
radio.
you
I was a
shoot,
radio man.
and one of
I
them
know.
is a radio man.
I was the radio man. I know.
Pretend coming off
That's
his
why I
back.
brought it up. That's why I brought it up. So.
The other thing I wanted to say was that 20 of the top, well, they get all the money from the education department are the red states. 20 of the top ones get all this funding from the education department. So what we can foresee is that we have a level of support from the government, and it's starting to go down.
Yeah.
And the red states they're gonna get hit very hard. But
That would be a
who
great
knows?
learning lesson.
Yeah.
That would be great for them to learn from.
No, not you. We just mentioned it.
The majority of them voted for Trump, so I think there's probably some hard lessons to be learned there. It's unfortunate for the people who realized what was going to happen all along and knew about Project 2025, and there'll be some people that are hit hard that will have to
Oh,
learn a
they're
lesson.
going right down that 2025 list.
Yeah.
Yes,
They're
they
going
are.
right down it.
Yes.
No matter how much Trump says, well,
And the banks, did
Trump's
you hear about the
problem.
banks this morning? He's suspended all bank fees so that the $130 million that he owes the Deutsche Bank goes away.
Oh,
yeah.
is that? It's
That-
always
yeah.
in his best interest,
Oh
isn't
yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Yeah, whatever's good for him.
And you know, if you can't turn Gaza into a seaside resort, as was suggested this morning as one of the reasons why they should go in and clean it up and set it up as a
With our
seaside resort.
military.
We could always use it to put all of the migrants that the people don't want to go back. I mean, right there we go.
Yeah.
Give them a whole country all to themselves. Go there. Don't come to America.
What's after Palestinians are all wiped out? How many million are there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Joanne, in regards to what you were saying about Elon Musk, it's horrible that Americans didn't wake up to it, because there are European countries who are banding together right now who are realizing what Elon Musk is doing and how he is trying to put money into their governments and their countries, trying to do takeovers there, but they realize it. And so they're banding together and saying, raising an eyebrow, this is not okay. Well, what happened in America? We
had-
didn't do that.
But we had Trump.
And
We
he
had
put his money,
interference.
he bought the Treasury Department that he's running now.
And he bought
paid
the
for it.
Republicans because Trump owns and is has total control of the Republican money. So
Right.
anyone that speaks up in the Republican Party is going to be out because they won't get any funding from the Republican Party. That's
Exactly.
why they're keeping their mouth shut.
Exactly. And Elon Musk put billions of dollars into Trump's campaign, and he was giving away $1 million a day in Pennsylvania for people
Yeah.
to come and vote
I
for
think
Trump.
it's 290
So
million he spent.
he put in a lot of money and bought the position he has now.
The
Not-
next thing on the 2025 plan, if you go down it, is the Fed. That's the next thing.
It's the Fed,
The next thing is the Fed.
possibly.
My biggest concern is Fort Knox.
Federal
I
Reserve.
think that's his target.
Federal Reserve, you think Fort Knox the goal?
I think Fort Knox is his target.
I'm,
Follow the money.
I think that's why he created his artificial currency. He's gonna make that the
crypto,
yeah.
yeah.
He's gonna make that the emergency reserve currency, and he's gonna sell it to the United States in exchange for gold.
By the way, what's a sovereign wealth fund?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So a sovereign wealth fund was developed through countries that had a surplus of their existing economics.
Yeah, right.
Norway.
Norway, Denmark, Sweden all run with a positive inflow because their taxes are high and they take great care of their people.
And
But they had this-
socialist countries, by the way.
yeah,
better than
and
that.
they had an excess amount, so they within their government developed these investment portfolios, which were these sovereign, separate from the government, funds to go and put in investments to increase more money to help rainy day fund, if you will. Unfortunately, the United States is at the exact opposite end of that with $31 trillion in debt. I don't think we have any kind of surplus funds.
No.
But he is acting like there is a, you know,
You'll be able to pay
for,
off.
for me, I find it very interesting and worth a conversation to see how he himself in the last 7 days has flopped on a daily basis to the point where even the news can't keep up with it. I'll give you an example. 4 hours ago, China couldn't mail any packages to the United States. An hour ago, they said, no, you can. We just want tariffs on some of the marketing, like Temu. I'm not sure what that is, but there are certain Amazon-type companies out of China that sell online, and they were not
Alibaba.
being tariffed.
Temu, by the
They
way.
weren't. They were because of the amount, and so it took 5 hours for it to clarify that. Well, no, we started with this, so we're going to shoot you with a shotgun and then put a little Band-Aid on your head and go, you're good to go. So, in response to all these actions that are occurring, many of them have done nothing more than get thrown into a lawsuit, been blocked by a judge. But the value of the aha moment, the shock and awe,
Right.
is where he's getting his biggest bang. But you're not hearing any of the news media saying, well, that's already been blocked by a court. This has been blocked. The OMB was rescinded.
But
But
then
yet-
it really wasn't.
Well, but it's still been blocked
it turned
anyway.
out to be
The executive
legally
order
blocked.
has multiple cases against it. So it's about being somewhat numb, and it's a struggle, and I'm with you.
Why I said what I said.
I know. To just go, not be so reactionary of the things, because that's the game he wants you to play. And that most of these things will, in time, get to the Supreme Court. We don't know what that will happen or how that will turn out.
With Alito and Clarence Thomas,
Yeah.
so what
Sure.
chance have they got?
Yeah.
Well,
We'll
you
see,
know,
we'll see.
again, they have been as inconsistent.
But if you
In
don't,
what
if
they're
you are
doing.
not, if you don't fight back, if you are not in a rage about what they're doing, they're going to just get away with it because people
Yeah.
are going to be,
Yeah.
they're turning off. I was in the supermarket just before I came here, and I was going to get a chicken. A whole chicken was $15 damn, okay?
Cooked.
And I was standing there looking at it, and I'm like,
No, those are 7.
I can't believe the cost of this chicken. And there are 4 women standing there, and everybody is like, do you believe it? And, you know, and they're talking about the price of eggs, and oh my God.
Wasn't he supposed to do something about groceries on day one?
Exactly.
Day one.
And that's exactly what they're talking about. And 2 of the women said, oh, I just can't deal with it. I just have to put blinders on to get through my day. And I'm like, that is the absolute worst
what they
thing you
want.
can do.
That's
So
what
who's
the
you know?
administration
organizing,
wants.
demonstrations? There's supposedly
Today,
multiple
in
cities
every-
that are-
all 50 states.
50 capitals, 50 state capitals.
That
Well,
may
there
or may
should
not
be.
truth.
Well, that's what the,
I saw.
No, there's a lot
I
going on
understand.
today in
There's a lot of
Florida.
advertising about that, but I saw somebody post about that if you check who's posting those, they're like
It's
new
happening.
accounts, so it's like a bot. So anyway, there are demonstrations not affiliated with that. And, so there's supposedly multiple cities in our country. I know it started in LA, I believe, but there are people out in the streets. So being out in the streets is gonna deal with.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm ready to make a sign that says, Gaza, WTF!
I know.
I
So-
mean, my God.
So we can. But-
That's what catapulted me out of bed this morning.
But the amount of people that are out in LA and the bigger cities is gonna make an impact. The people that went to the Department of Treasury or the SID, whatever building they were locked out of.
USAID.
With the Democrat
Yeah,
senators
Jamie,
and the
Jamie Raskin was terrific.
some of the
isn't he?
Republicans as well, I believe, were there. I may be wrong on that. I know
No,
they
they
were,
were.
the House.
I
So the
can-
House and the
Yeah.
Senate was there.
I can see him going to the American people on television and saying, you know, we don't really need Congress anymore. And, you know, we could save all the money for their salaries and let's just save them home because you really don't need them. All you
Well,
need is
Well,
the
they
army
definitely
and
fight
me.
that,
Yeah.
because they're definitely gonna want their money, so I can see them
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
fighting for that, and there are things happening in
But-
Florida.
But by the
So
time they
We'll hear
do
about
it,
them
it'll
on
be
the
too
news.
What
late.
Bernie Sanders and somebody
Elizabeth
else,
Warren.
of famous, are suggesting, and it's showing up on Facebook all the time, social media, I should say. We should call, they list the phone numbers all the time, call your senator. They say, there's a couple of write-ups that are passed around that say that emails aren't as good as calling, trying to talk to a human and give your message, keep it short, and do it every day, and do multiple,
And
all your.
AOC's been encouraging that too.
AOC. And
It's
so
all my lefties
They,
doing it.
they are speaking up. That's how we can speak up and not just sit. And I agree with you on not just accepting it, because that's how they get away with it.
Go down.
Yes, sir.
Al.
I'm at a loss for what to do because I understand that, I don't know, since I'm in elementary school, people are telling me to write to my congressman. And I watched the, I watched the Senate say that, it comes out of committee and say, yeah, Robert Kennedy, he looks like a good candidate to run the Department of Health. So I mean, who are you writing to? You know,
Right.
you're writing to someone who's going to sit on a committee, look at Kennedy, and say, "Oh yeah, the Department of Health, he should be running that organization." So I mean, I'm at a loss to tell you what to do aside from writing to your senator or congressman. But when I look at what their actions are, it's hard for me
He
to
put
take
somebody
that as a
from
route.
Fox News in
There was
charge of the
there was
transportation.
one other thing that I wanted to mention, and that was under the heading of "Be careful of what you wish for." Biden was under tremendous pressure from the from the Muslim community in the United States because of his support for Israel. And of course, we did give Israel and continue to give Israel tremendous military support. However, it was never Biden's permission that the Palestinians should give up any land. It was always Biden's position that many of the settlements that Israel had created in Gaza were illegal.
Well, not
And
okay.
no
Jews were allowed.
I mean West Bank,
Yeah,
in the
no,
West Bank.
no Jews were allowed in Gaza
In the-
since,
no,
since
no, no.
2005.
In the West Bank, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so the Muslims in the United States, it was pointed out to me that Dearborn, which I didn't know,
Yeah.
is majority Muslim.
Yes,
And we knew they were
And
doing
it went
genocide.
and it went for Trump.
Trump, yes.
So that was where I came up with my idea of be careful of what you wish for.
But they are sorry.
I can understand their frustration with Biden, but Trump hadn't changed his position since he was elected. Trump was very clear on MAGA support for Israel in terms of what he would want. And the stuff that you saw in the last day or two, I mean, I'm a Zionist. I'm pro-Israel. And I look at the stuff that Trump has said in the last couple of days, and I'm saying, you're out of your mind, but
That's not.
but then again,
not a surprise.
be careful what you wish for in terms of those voters not being able to see past the election to what the result of their vote was going to
They
be.
were crazed because they could see genocide happening and we weren't doing anything about it, and we knew it was genocide. We knew it.
Dearborn is the largest Islam American community in the country.
And Michigan's electoral votes are.
Meryl, I have
depend on
something
that.
important to
All right,
add.
so let's just finish and wind it up. Last comments, and then we'll say goodbye.
In regards to something that Joanne was saying about writing and calling your elected officials, and in regards to what you were saying also, there's an app called 5 Calls, and all of us can put that on our phone. It's very helpful, extremely easy to use. You click on it, and it asks you what's important to you, the topics of the day, what's most important to you. You click on what's most important to you, whether it be Kennedy not getting through, whether it be the Gaza situation. You click on it, and it gives you a little short script of what you will say, and you press, and it calls.
Yeah.
And then you click on if you spoke to someone, if you left a message, or what happened with your phone call. It takes 5 minutes, and you can make 5 calls per day.
Okay, give us the name of the
Yeah.
app.
It's
again.
called 5 Calls.
I'll share it on
Five
the
calls.
Five
But
calls.
but by the
Wait,
way,
one at a time. 5 what?
Five calls.
Calls. Okay.
Five
I'll
calls.
share it with everybody in a nice email that goes around. But I would agree that calling Rick Scott's office and calling Ashley Moody's office and banging your head against the cement wall all three are equally effective. But we do have an election coming up in which a right-wing reactionary, by the way Jewish, but still a right-wing reactionary, Randy Fine, is running against Josh Weil, a public school teacher, and we can actually make a difference now because that's the electoral process, the election process. And I believe firmly that no matter what our position, we need to have the right people in public office. We need to vote in the right people, and we can't be quiet about it.
Along with that,
At any
Meryl,
rate,
to take
let's-
action, today in a Flagler group, Flagler Beach Democrat group, I put a link for anybody to help with phone banking for Josh, because we really need to take action.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, turnout is most important. We're not convinced that we need just to convince them to vote, and Democrats will vote for Weil, I believe. At any rate, thank you all for your input and discussion.